So, it's 1917. Russia has managed to do the impossible. It got rid of its czar. The February Revolution was a messy, spontaneous, citywide outburst of, "We're done with this." In its place stood the Provisional Government, a collection of well-meaning liberals and moderate socialists who believed in things like due process and waiting for an election. Their leader, Alexander Kerensky, was a man who excelled at giving passionate speeches while the country was actively on fire. Meanwhile, they decided to keep fighting World War I, a decision about as popular as a tax on vodka.
Across the continent, Germany was having a fantastic war, except for the part where it was a two-front nightmare. Some strategic genius in Berlin had an idea. What if we destabilized Russia more? Enter Vladimir Lenin, a professional revolutionary who had been exiled in Switzerland, mostly spending his time writing very angry political theory. The Germans figured he was the perfect human-shaped chaos bomb. So they put him, his wife, and about 30 other Bolsheviks on a sealed train and shipped him right across their territory to Russia. A move of spectacular short-sightedness. Lenin arrives in Petrograd and his fellow Bolsheviks expect a nice, comradely reunion. Instead, he gets on top of an armored car and immediately starts yelling that the revolution they just had wasn't revolutionary enough. He issues his April Theses, which was basically a political wrecking ball. No cooperation with the government, an immediate end to the imperialist war, seizure of all land. He condensed it all down to a ridiculously effective slogan: peace, land, and bread. It turns out, when people are starving and dying in a pointless war, they don't care about complex constitutional theories. They care about peace, land, and bread. Feeling confident, the Bolsheviks decided to give revolution a try in July. The July Days uprising was, to put it mildly, a complete shambles. It was a spontaneous, disorganized protest by soldiers and workers that the Bolsheviks half-heartedly tried to lead after it had already started. When the provisional government showed a little bit of force, the whole thing collapsed. Prominent Bolsheviks were arrested, their newspaper was shut down, and Lenin had to shave his signature beard and flee to Finland disguised as a railway worker. It looked like they were completely finished, a spectacular failure. Just when you thought the provisional government might have things under control, they decided to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Kerensky got paranoid about his newly appointed commander-in-chief, General Kornilov, thinking he was planning a right-wing military coup. Was Kornilov actually planning a coup? It's complicated and still debated. But Kerensky panicked. And in his panic, he did the one thing you should never do. He asked his sworn enemies for help. He released the arrested Bolsheviks and gave their militia, the Red Guards, thousands of rifles to defend the revolution. The coup never even happened. It just fell apart. But now the Bolsheviks were back, they looked like heroes, and they were armed to the teeth. Great job, everyone! With Lenin still writing manifestos from his Finnish hideout, the actual groundwork was laid by Leon Trotsky. If Lenin was the revolution's ideologue, Trotsky was its project manager. He was brilliant, arrogant, and an exceptional organizer. After the Kornilov affair, Bolshevik popularity surged, and Trotsky maneuvered himself into becoming the chairman of the Petrograd Soviet. This was the powerful council of workers and soldiers that held the real power in the city. From there, he established the Military Revolutionary Committee, or MRC. Its official job was to organize the defense of Petrograd. Its real job was to organize the overthrow of the government. The strangest thing about the October Revolution is that it wasn't a secret.
At all. The Bolsheviks were openly debating the exact date for the insurrection in their own newspapers. Two leading Bolsheviks, Zinoviev and Kamenev, actually thought it was a terrible idea and published an article denouncing the plan. Lenin was absolutely furious, calling them strikebreakers. Kerensky read all this, knew it was coming, and just sort of dithered. He gave a few speeches, tried to shut down a couple of Bolshevik newspapers, and moved some supposedly loyal troops toward the city. It was like watching someone try to stop a tidal wave with a bucket. The grand climax, the storming of the Winter Palace, is one of history's great marketing triumphs. Soviet propaganda painted it as a heroic mass battle. The reality was more like a confused building inspection. The palace was defended by a handful of military cadets and the 1st Women's Battalion of Death, who mostly just left when they realized the situation was hopeless. The signal to attack was supposed to be a live shell from the cruiser Aurora. Instead, it fired a blank because they didn't want to damage the historic building. The storming involved Bolshevik forces wandering in through unlocked side doors and getting lost in the palace's 1,500 rooms, occasionally bumping into the last remaining ministers of the provisional government. While this world-changing event was supposedly happening, the rest of Petrograd was having a pretty normal night. The trams were still running on schedule, restaurants and theaters were open, the famous bass singer Chaliapin was performing at the opera. People were going about their business, strolling along the Nevsky Prospect, completely oblivious to the fact that their government was being overthrown a few blocks away. The whole coup involved maybe 25,000 to 30,000 people in a city of over 2 million. It wasn't a popular uprising. It was a swift, relatively bloodless seizure of the levers of power while everyone else was at dinner. And what of Alexander Kerensky, the leader of Russia? Did he go down fighting? A dramatic last stand? Not exactly. Realizing the palace was about to be taken, he slipped out the back. His own car was nowhere to be found, so he had to find a ride. He ended up commandeering a Pierce Arrow automobile from an American embassy official, stuck a little American flag on it for good measure, and drove out of the city to try and find loyal troops. The head of the Russian state fled his capital in a borrowed American car. The symbolism is almost too perfect. On the morning of October 26th, Lenin, fresh from his hiding place, walked into the Second Congress of Soviets and declared, "We shall now proceed to construct the socialist order." Just like that. Their first two moves were politically brilliant. First, the Decree on Peace, calling for an immediate end to the war without annexations, a message every soldier wanted to hear. Second, the Decree on Land, which abolished private land ownership and basically told the peasants, that land you've already started taking, it's yours now. They didn't ask for permission, they simply legalized what was already happening, instantly winning the support of millions. Simple, brutal, effective. So, the Bolsheviks had seized power in Petrograd, a fantastic achievement. The only problem was that Petrograd isn't Russia. Russia is Russia, a vast, chaotic, multinational empire tearing itself apart. They were a tiny political party in charge of one city's government buildings. They fully expected their revolution to trigger a wave of similar socialist uprisings across Europe, especially in Germany. Spoiler alert, it didn't. They were on their own. The coup was the easy part. Now they had to govern, which would lead to one of the most brutal civil wars in history. But that's a story for another time. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more historical insights. Thanks for watching, nerds!